Welcome to the Metapod podcast, the Pokemon podcast that revolves around the evolving meta. I almost screwed it up this week. Woo, it's been a while.
It was a close call, Jake. Close call.
It's been a long week. I literally, before we started recording today, got home like 5 minutes ago from the office. So just zooming over here to be able to get this podcast recording done so then we can get this episode out on time. But Sean, how are you doing today?
I'm good. It has not necessarily been a long week for me, but you know, just chilling. Side note, hold on. I'm throwing you a curveball right at the beginning.
Oh yeah. I don't know what's happening right now, but for all of our audio listeners, Sean has left the desk.
Hold on, I gotta put the headphones back in. I bought these guys at my local game store.
Oh, you got more nano block. They're nano blocks, right?
Exactly. And this is like I haven't seen these in Pokemon yet. They're like the really big ones. So like they're
I was gonna say I've seen you build like the smaller versions, but this Dialga and Palkia, for anyone who can't see what's going on, these things look huge. Yeah, those look like actual giant.
For reference,
well, giant as in like
That's Ho-Oh for reference.
I wonder if it's like a foot tall.
It might be. Like I don't know how to do millimeters, but it's Dialga is 145 millimeters tall. Whatever that means. The Europeans out there will know.
It's like just under half a foot.
But like
so about 6 inches.
Yeah, they're like 1,000 pieces relative to like the other nanoblocks, which are usually about 200.
Yeah. So it's a big hunker.
Yeah, it is. Anyways, I wanted to bring that out. I just remembered that I got that on Friday last week, and I eventually will build it. Yeah.
You know what I got Friday of last week, Sean?
Pokemon cards?
I got the championship, the World Championship decks from last year. We talked about it previously on the podcast. You know how they were coming back, releasing some of the top decks from the World Championships in 2022. Those came out, if you didn't see on our Twitter last week. I've been playing solitaire with myself, essentially. I am both players. It's really cool to play the games just with the people, you know, like it's really interesting to play against myself, but also like to play those high level decks. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, that's like if you ever meet one of the people, you got to get it signed, Jake.
Well, I mean, I opened it already and I've been shuffling it. Maybe if
they can sign individual cards, right? Because they have a different card back, right?
What's really cool, and I wish I had some of them in front of me, but one thing about the World Championship decks that I didn't actually know, and I didn't tell you about this either when we were talking before the podcast, they have silver borders on them.
Oh.
And I don't know if this is, because these are the first World Championship decks that I've personally bought. I don't know if the ones in the past have had the silver borders on them, but these, I mean, because Scarlet and Violet, for anyone who doesn't know, is going to introduce in the regular expansions silver borders instead of the yellow borders. And so I opened it up and I was really surprised. And yeah, they have the different card backs on them. Yeah. But yeah, it has silver borders on it. And I thought it was really cool.
I wonder, because I can't remember if the old World Championship decks had silver borders. If they did, I think then that is an aspect of like making sure that they're not tournament legal. Because like in tournaments you have sleeves, so you don't see the back. So I could see like that being a front-facing way to not be tournament
There's
legal.
also I'm trying to remember. I don't think there was a hollow pattern though either on the cards. So like the Flying Pikachu VMAX, you know, one of the
so
things.
Weird. A non-hollow.
It is such a fun deck to play, that deck. But yeah, it's like I'm pretty sure it's like a non-hollow. If my memory serves me correctly from when I was playing it last night. But it's still really cool, and I mean they're $20 each USD. So if you're looking to pick a high-level deck to play with yourself, just have historical purposes. I know people collect those World Championship decks. Like those are a cool thing.
Yeah.
I really liked it. The only gripe that I really have, it doesn't come with sleeves. It looks like it comes with sleeves of like the different colors, like one's green, one's purple. You remember, Sean? That's the deck box. That is that like little portion of it. It looks like it's sleeves. Somebody on Twitter said like, "Oh, how are the sleeves?" And I was like, "No, that's a deck box." It's a deck box, by the way, that Pokemon has been doing, where it's a deck box that does not fit 60 sleeved cards. It's a deck box for unsleeved cards.
I mean, maybe in their mind, Jake, because their card backs are different, and it's like, well, it doesn't matter. You can shuffle these up. These are proxies. These are fake, like, and they don't. But I'm like, who wants to shuffle raw cards? Like, that just feels so horrible.
I mean, I get it. Like, if you're a newer player, right, you probably don't have sleeves. Like, if you're brand new and you're reading the cards for the first time, and you're buying the cards, because you're a parent and you notice, that they have some sort of meaning and you want your kid to like learn how to play the game. Like, I get it. Like, not everybody has sleeves. I just feel like it would be really cool to get sleeves in there.
Yeah, it would have been cool.
It doesn't have to be the sleeves. Yeah, it doesn't have to be the sleeves that they like sell at Worlds or whatever, or get at Worlds. It doesn't have to be that specific one, but
it would have made the products like $5 more, and I don't know if that's like they just don't want to hit that price point,
Yeah, I don't. Maybe $25 is too much on that.
But I think the deck box not being able to hold sleeved cards, that is a little weird.
I've talked about that because that's in those milk carton things.
Yeah.
I don't even know what they're actually called. I just keep calling them milk cartons with the full art supporter. Like that, and these deck boxes in the World Championship decks are paper deck boxes.
Mm-hmm.
They're like cardboard papers. So like I've actually already kind of ripped one of them, just opening it and closing it. Whereas like the milk carton one, at least the Juniper one, I don't know if the Clara or the Marnie or whatever also does this, but the Juniper one is plastic and Velcro. So it's like way more durable, but it still doesn't fit 60 sleeved cards.
It's durable, but it's trash at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I gave it to someone, because I gave them some cards and I just put the cards in there and then gave it to them because I was like, I don't need this. But you know what you do need, Sean?
What do I need? What do I need?
You need some good news and some good words. And so we're going to transition into the meat and potatoes of the podcast, talking about what we got on the actual topics list today. But as always, we always start out with a nice comment or review left for the podcast. We're taking it back a little bit on this one, episode 127. This is a comment left on YouTube from Tree Lane. Tree Lane says, I wanted to tell you I love your podcast. Helped me a lot when I started in the trading card game. The newest episode then was 116 about the top Lost Origin decks. I had a great time hearing you while driving or working. The deck ideas I get while hearing you are also pretty useful. I usually hear the podcast on Spotify, but today I came to YouTube to be able to comment this. Tree Lane, thank you so much for that wonderful comment.
I would love to know if you've only ever heard it. I don't know if you get this, Jake, but whenever I listen to people on podcasts and then I see their face for the first time,
does it match?
I mean, I feel like it almost never matches. So that's that might be a me thing, but it is always like weird when you see somebody's face that you've only ever heard their voice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It always is a little freaky. So anybody out there who's listening,
head over to the YouTube channel. Not a plug for the YouTube channel at all at Metapod. To go to the YouTube channel at Metapod.
Does our face match our voices? That's my question.
Yeah, let us know over in the comments, but be nice because I know I don't look the prettiest today.
True. We have a face for radio.
I mean, literally, I went to school for radio. I went to college for radio, but. Sean, you may have gone to the regional Perth championships that happened over the weekend, or maybe not because
I did not.
OCIC was very, very recently. This has been a kind of a hot topic for a lot of the Australian players. All of their major events are in the same format, essentially. So a lot of people, I know, I think it was the Sable Eyes were pretty mad about it.
Yeah, I would understand that.
Vocally on Twitter, but this did happen. Nothing, in my opinion, has really changed, and I think Sean can agree. Nothing's really changed or super outstanding or like surprising in this format. Lost Box did win and actually took the top 2 spots, and then there's a whole bunch of other things that we've kind of seen again and again. Lugia, Archeops, Duraludon, Vikavolt. I mean, it's it's kind of the same old. This is a very high level event with very high level players because, like you see in there, Natalie Millar, Christian Hasbani, Jeremy Evans, very, very good players among this top 8, and a former world champion, and Henry Brand in here. We're showing you the top 8 right now, but we're not really going to talk too much about it because it's the same thing. I'm not getting tired of the format, but.
Well, I mean, we also have, a big thing to talk about today, which is the set list for Scarlet and Violet after a couple of other things.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple other quick things that we're going to talk about. But yes, Scarlet and Violet, as you probably saw in the title, thumbnail, things like that, that's the meat and potatoes, I would say. How many times will Jake say meat and potatoes in this podcast episode? But first, Sean, you may want to check your emails because the codes for the Illustrator contest promos are now out and about in your emails. You may have talked, or you may remember, we talked a long time ago about the Pokemon Illustrator contest and how you could submit your artwork to win and be like on Pokemon cards. And then later when they announced the winners, they said that they were going to distribute, you could sign up for codes to be able to get them. And what it is they emailed you a code. You can go in the Pokemon Center website. If you got one of these codes, if you signed up through like the link in our description that we provided, and if you buy a certain amount of product from the website, you will get mailed a pack of these cards after plugging in the code. So, I mean, I saw it in my email, and I know this is something that you could forget really easily. But just to let you know, you have to spend $30 or more USD before taxes, 30 Canadian dollars, excluding GST, or 30 GBP. I don't know. Is that pounds?
Those are pounds.
Sean?
Yes.
Pounds.
Great
cool.
British pounds.
I'm not knowledgeable in my outside of America-ness, inclusive of VAT as well. It's a one-time use. So make sure when you use it on ones that you want. You're going to get these 3 cards that we're showing you in here: the Bulbasaur, Greninja, and Arcanine. I love all 3 of these cards. That's why I went to go get the code and put myself in for potential to be able to get it. And it will expire at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time Zone on September 30th, 2023. So if you're you can wait a little bit, maybe combine it with like a booster box or whatever if you buy it directly from the Pokemon Center website, or like a new Pokemon product that releases over the summer. But don't forget about that because, well, we're not going to remind you after this.
yeah, we're not going to remember. So we will be of no help to you.
That's why we're talking about it now. Just like we're talking about some new trademarks that Pokemon made within the last couple weeks. They made 3 new set name trademarks: Ancient Roar, Future Flash, and Shiny Treasure as part of it. It's in the same kind of system that they've used in the past, so this is what we assume tying into the Scarlet and Violet DLC in the fall. It may be around that time. The thing about Scarlet and Violet, spoiler alert for anyone who doesn't know, it plays on the ideas of like time travel in the past and the present. So that's kind of the key names of Ancient Roar and Future Flash.
And then you have the Shiny Treasure, which, it has shiny in the name. So you can maybe make an educated guess that it'll be the high class pack. So those are the packs that Japan does every year that have either shiny Pokemon or alternate arts or whatever. It sounds like this year the theme will be shinies again. I feel like
it's been a huge hit.
Yeah, I feel like they do it every other year that they do a shiny set, maybe.
Right? I'm trying to think because there was the last shiny set. Man, say that 5 times fast. It was Shiny Star V. That was 2020.
No, that would have been 2022.
No, Shiny Star V was where Shining Fates was our set. right? But
right,
the
right, yeah.
Japanese set was Shiny Star V that released in 2020.
Oh, yes, yes. So yeah, that would have been
And
the
then
last one.
they had, and last year they had V Star Universe, I think
Yes.
it was. So kind of potentially alternating in that, as you were alluding to earlier. But I mean, Japanese Pokemon cards, and this is a whole different other conversation that we won't get into, have been extremely bonkers in terms of its market price and things like that, and trying to buy it secondhand. So, who knows if people will pick up this set or if it continues. I imagine we'll get it eventually. You know, we always usually get these high class sets, or parts of it, I should say. There are sometimes cards that are left out when they leave Japan, when the sets leave Japan. But it'll be cool to see how these come out. I'm excited for these, like, Scarlet and Violet cards as they continue appearing, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll probably get it sometime early next year, is my guess. Like, it seems like we got switched over to the Crown Zenith and like the February cycle for our special sets rather than October, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But Jake, are you ready?
But Sean,
Are you ready for EX cards?
I am. And so here in this month, Scarlet and Violet will be releasing. I believe it actually releases on March 31st. The pre-release kits kind of start rolling out, I believe, next weekend, right?
Yeah,
About the
March
17th, 18th.
Yeah, March 18th window weekend is when you'll start being able to go to your pre-releases and maybe pull some of these cards.
Now, there have been leaks. Some stores have already been getting the Scarlet and Violet packs and have been opening them. That's why we kind of have the set list and things like that. And that's why we're talking about it a little bit earlier then, because news was a little bit slow this week. So it's a perfect time to jump into them. But we are going to be using Justin's website. Again, we've used Justin's website in the past. I'll make sure to link it in the show notes and stuff below. It's a really good resource on meta, deck building, rotation, post-rotation, you know, stuff that's been going on in the Pokemon community. Very good website. But Sean, do you want to look at some of the illustration cards, or do you want to look at some of the more playing cards going on?
I think we can really talk about the cards that you play in this one. So
let's start off with the utility stuff.
Yeah, like, so for those of y'all who know, like, when we do set reviews, I will say, like, oftentimes we'll have like the entire set list. That's not out yet. Like, there's not like a good resource that has like the full set, every single card translated, but Justin does a really great job of pulling out the ones that are the most important. So we're going to just go with him here. So yeah, I mean, let me see. I haven't actually looked through any of these, so I'm just going to go through each one. He says there's an Arboliva.
Do you even know what that Pokemon is, Sean?
Oh, this is one of the new ones, right?
It's one of the evolutions of Smoliv. You know Smoliv, right?
Is that one of the new ones from Scarlet and Violet, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's why I don't know this thing.
Okay.
I haven't played
Sean,
Scarlet and
hurry
Violet.
up and play the games.
Yeah, I know, clearly. It has an ability. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may heal all damage from one of your Pokemon. Now, this is I believe, Stage 2 Pokemon.
Yes, it is.
So, you know, but having an ability that is, you know, we won't have Scoop Up Net in the format. So that is also an important thing to consider. So you will evolve this dude, and it'll just be there on your bench. It does have an attack that does 2 grass and a colorless for 150. I don't know. This one's a little weird. Like, I think the ability is really powerful. Like, if you have an EX or a VMAX even, because it doesn't specify any type, it can be a VMAX, that you can heal all the damage from, that would be wildly annoying in some decks.
I feel like this, I mean, I'm not into this card. Like, I see what you mean on that, but we're moving into an EX era where cards are smaller, right? But you still have these, which we'll talk about later, you still have these cards that output this incredible damage, right, inside of it. And I feel like this card, it's not gonna work out.
I mean,
Like unless the other points of its evolution have really cool abilities that could help you out
mhm.
as a utility Pokemon, then maybe.
It'll be yeah. I'll be interested to see how this one. I think some people will play around with this card because there's a lot of players out there that really like to build tanky decks.
Hmm.
I mean, just think of Gudra, right? A Gudra deck might really love something like this because like you have a V-Star, ability that can heal all your damage, and then you have this little one prizer in the back that like, is it really worth it for your opponent to boss that up instead of hitting into your Gudra?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, like Gudra's right now, playing like comfy decks,
Mm-hmm.
right? And Lost Box engines, people are probably taking out one prizers anyway. So what's the more valuable? The Arboliva or like a Comfey? Well, maybe, I mean, if they're at a certain point in terms of their loss zone, they're already at 7, they're already at
Mm-hmm.
8 or whatever. This might be the more valuable Pokemon.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just an interesting card. Yeah, I think it'll be limited use, but that's my thought. But Jake,
One that I think has a little bit more use is this fire Pokemon right next to it, Armarouge, I believe. I don't know how you actually pronounce this Pokemon's name, but it's a stage 1 fire Pokemon, 130 HP. It has an ability called Fire Alarm. As often as you'd like during your turn, you may move one fire energy attached from one of your bench Pokemon to your active Pokemon.
ooh,
So I think this is kind of cool in terms of like being able to switch and bring stuff up. I mean, it's a little bit more than something like Heatran GX, for example, if you remember that Pokemon, where it relied on the switch and it was a one-time thing. But this is a freedom move. If you've got, like you said, one of the more tanky decks that can't be knocked out in one punch, you could switch between them, maneuver, especially when something, I mean, is Hyper Potion staying in the format after a rotation?
I don't know off the top of my head. We'll have to do a
But
thorough post-rotation video.
well, we might have to.
Yeah.
But think about if Armorage, right? If you've got something that's a little bit more tanky or a fire Pokemon and you switch, and then you switch the Pokemon into a new attacker and then you move the energies up to there, you could do something like a Hyper Potion and be able to heal a bunch of damage off without technically losing any energy.
That's a really good point. I really like that point.
You could finagle like little things like that.
Well,
Or
actually,
even
does
like,
Hyper Potion require you to discard 2? It does. It requires you to discard 2.
does it actually, or
I
can you
believe
just
so.
heal?
I believe it
Well, then
requires you to discard 2 in order to do it.
maybe not that then. But what about what's that supporter? Is it oh yeah, it does say have at least 2 energy
Yeah.
on it. But what about what's his name? Volo?
What does
Is that
Volo
a
heal? Does that let you pick something up or heal something? Maybe.
no. Isn't there a supporter right now in the format? Shoot. Who
There,
is it that like allows you to pick one up?
there is Acerola. Acera's or no, it's I don't know why I talk about her all the time. It's the one that picks up colorless Pokemon.
Yeah, I know which
It's
one
in
you're talking.
Arceus
Sharon's
decks.
Care?
Sharon's Care, that's it.
Sharon's Care.
Yeah, you could
But that
use
one
this
says
with
all
Sharon's Care.
attached. That one says all attached cards to your hand, but you could still,
If
like you
move all
said,
the
use
energy
it.
off. Yeah, if you move all the
If you
energy off,
move all
pick it
the
up.
energy off, yeah, you keep all the energy and things like that. So maybe, I don't know.
There was a
I don't know.
there was a deck
Arceus
when
decks.
we started playing. I can't remember the name of the Pokemon. It was a water type Pokemon, and it did the same thing where you could move water energy from your bench to your active as often as you want during your turn.
I'm pretty sure I know because I played it with like
It was
Psyduck and Slowpoke.
Yeah, I also think that people played it in like a there might have been some single prize decks that played it, but anyways, like so it's interesting they're giving this ability to fire. I will say fire doesn't typically do. I mean, I know we had Welder in the format at one point, but
That was
yeah,
that was bad. But I feel like that this is a pretty good spot for it because fire does have some acceleration in something like Magma Basin. Right, so there is an
true.
opportunity to get multiple fire energies in a turn, but since we don't have something like a welder or whatever, fire energy is much more I don't want to say scarce, but
Mhm.
like not as plentiful to be able to put down 18,000 in one turn. So it's, being able to save it a little bit keeps them a little bit of value, which I like.
I do like this. Jake, I'll move on to Slowbro now. Speaking of water Pokemon, ability
Hmm.
Strange Behavior. As often as you like during your turn, you may move a damage counter from one of your Pokemon to this Pokemon. That would have been better when Scoop of Net was in format.
It would have been better. I mean, I think it would have been insane if
It
Scoop
would
of
have
Net was in
really been
format.
insane.
Well, maybe not actually. Maybe kind of, because like you do have to evolve into Slowbro. Although maybe you move the Slowbro one Scoop Up Net to another Slowbro. But anyways,
Yeah.
this Slowbro I think is worth noting. So we talked about the last stage 1 Pokemon, Armorage, 130 HP. Slowbro
Mhm.
only has 100 HP. So I think that's also worth noting. They gave it this nice ability, but they kind of made sure it wasn't too powerful by saying, okay, well, you can only move like 9 damage counters. Or maybe I guess
Yeah.
you could move 10 and just knock it out.
It'll be interesting to see with this one what the damage. This will really depend on math, right? Like any deck that plays this is going to have to be a deck that they care about the math of how much damage is typical to be output.
Hmm.
Because then, yeah, if you can move 5, 6 of them, 8 of them, whatever, onto this, um, that doesn't matter to you. You're like, hey, that means you can't 2-hit KO me. If it turns a 2-hit
Um,
knockout into a 3-hit knockout, that's all that matters.
there was in like base set times, there was a Pokemon that did this sort of thing. Was it Wigglytuff
It might have been
that
Wigglytuff or
had this?
Chansey or something like that. Yeah.
I can't remember, but I feel like there was like a base set Pokemon that was able to move the damage counters.
I want to say it was Chansey.
I think it was Chansey as well. No, I don't think it was
No.
Chansey. Chansey had Prevent. I can't remember which one it is, but I remember there was a deck that I think Chansey was part of the combo. I think there was another Pokemon though, part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Gengar? But anyways, it was
Yeah.
moving damage counters, and then yes,
And then you would pick up the Chansey that had all the damage cards because it was a really big Pokemon. So you could just pick
yes,
it up,
at the
all the damage
time.
goes away. Yeah.
So, I mean, this combo is been around in the Pokemon trading card game for a long time, and who knows, maybe it can come back and stay. We may get eventually something, maybe not in this set, but in a future set, like the next one after Scarlet and Violet, where it's like the flip a coin, if heads, pick up the Pokemon and all cards attached to it.
Oh,
I don't
I would
know.
love that. That would be cool to bring
Yeah,
that back.
that was in like Celestial Storm or something like that in the Sun and
Yeah.
Moon era, and it was around for a little bit.
Um, Jake, do you want to go through the next one?
I mean, the next one on Justin's page is Quaquaval. We've talked about this Pokemon actually because
Mm.
it's a promo.
Oh,
This is
right.
the stage 2, 170 HP water Pokemon. This final starter evolution. Once during your turn, you may attach a basic energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon. I think it's bad because it's a stage 2 having that ability. But
Yep.
anyways,
I agree.
Miraidon EX. This is the card that's getting a lot of people excited, is dominating Japan, actually. People are really, really loving this deck. And this card, Miraidon EX, 220 HP basic lightning Pokemon, has an ability called Tandem Unit, Sean. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for up to 2 basic lightning Pokemon and put them onto your bench, then shuffle your deck. Lightning, colorless is the attack, 220 damage, but during your next turn, this Pokemon can't attack.
I mean,
This
why
card's
is
really
this,
good, Sean.
Why? Yeah. Why is this particularly dominating? What
Because
are the 2 Pokemon you're getting?
well, you can put a bunch of like Regielekis on the field,
Mm-hmm.
right? You get your Regielekis set up, I believe, in the deck, and then you just continuously pound away.
No. So what does Regieleki do? So I'm just like, what's
Regieleki
the payoff?
VMAX.
Oh, is it the VMAX? Oh, so you get the Regielekis.
Yeah, the VMAX. I'm sorry, I should
and
have
then you
said that.
Evo. Ah, got him. Okay. So you get the VMAX, you get the V out, and then you Evo into the VMAX on the following turn.
there's a lot of different things you can do. I'm trying to look because I'm pretty sure you can also play this deck with Flaffy, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people in Japan, have been playing it. So then you could do that, and that's a really easy. That ability can very easily get you the whatchamacallit, the Mareeps out to be able to put on your bench. So, I mean, there's a couple different ways that you can play around with that card and do it, but those are the two ways that I've seen so far from like Twitter Japan.
Interesting. So I guess you make it so that your Miraidon does 30 more damage for each Regieleki VMAX. In total, you get 60 more damage. You're doing 280, which knocks out any V stars. You can throw a choice belt onto that, and then all of a sudden you're doing 310.
Yep.
I can see how the math works out there. Although I will say 220 HP, not a lot.
I mean, if you think about it, if you're routinely getting like a turn 2 knockout, right? Fair. Turn 1 you do setup, get some Pokemon down. Turn 2 being able to attack, like, and just knock things out left and right, you're probably winning the prize trade more often than not.
The one thing I'll say about this card that I'm just going to be honest, it's a bit of a feels bad, is I don't love that it really favors the player who goes first.
Oh, I mean, this goes back to the World Championship decks. I was playing a best of 3 of the Arceus V-Star, Flying Pikachu VMAX, and Hisuian Decidueye versus Mew VMAX. And that matchup, I've played it like a couple times now. Now, obviously, I'm not the best tester because I'm playing against myself. But that one felt pretty much like who went first.
Yeah, and
I mean, it doesn't change too much.
No, that's fair. But I mean, just this one, like you go first. All you have to do is you start with a Pokemon. So if you start with Miraidon because you're running 4, and you only need 1 Pokemon search card in your hand to get a full bench. Because then you go get another Miraidon, right? And then what you do with both Miraidons, you go 2 Regieleki.
Oh, yeah.
2, what's the Mareep pre-evolution?
Mareep.
Oh, it's Mareep. Yeah. 2 Mareeps. And then all you had to do is 1 Pokemon search, and you have a full bench. If you attach 1 energy to the one on the bench, maybe, right? And then all you got to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, you still have to find the evolutions. You still have to be able to get those energies in the discard, and who knows? Maybe you have to Luminion, right? Sacrifice a bench spot for a Luminion to find a research or to find some sort of supporter.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. I don't know, something like that. It worries me a little bit. That's all I'll say.
I mean, I don't think it's crazy to say that this is going to be one of the better decks in the format. That's for sure. But I think it'll be interesting how things kind of play out. And there's a couple other cards that we can talk about later that can be a part of this deck, Sean.
Well, the next card on the list is Gardevoir EX. It's a stage 2 EX, so we got stage 2 EXs back. Ability, Psychic Embrace. As often as you like during your turn, you may attach a basic psychic energy from your discard pile to one of your psychic Pokemon. If you do, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. And then its attack, if you're going to get all this psychic acceleration, what's the payoff? 2 colorless, 2 psychic and a colorless. You do 190. It recovers from all special conditions for whatever that matters. I mean, I will say the biggest thing about this card is it is a 310 HP.
It's big. They compensated it. Yeah, they compensated it being a stage 2, being able to get that out.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I like that shift of like, it's going to make it as big as a VMAX, but give away as many prizes as a V-Star. And I'm like, that seems better. And then I think the question becomes like, where's the payoff for putting all that energy onto the field, right? There might be, I don't know, maybe there's a payoff somewhere that I am not aware of, but
it does say to one of your psychic Pokemon. My first instant thought was something like Hisuian Zoroark V-Star, because it, does more damage based on the amount of Pokemon that have damage counters on them on the field, but the Hisuian Zoroark is
not
just
psychic.
No, yeah, it's
Yeah.
a normal type.
I don't know. There's probably a psychic card out there that, like, if you put a ton of energy onto it, it's worth it. And maybe it doesn't matter about the damage counters. Maybe there's a single prizer that does damage based on the number of psychic energy. It wouldn't be so crazy. And like,
Does suspicious food tin survive rotation
I
from
don't
Champion's Path?
I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I
I
don't
think it'd be
so.
bad, but I don't know. A little thought.
Yeah, that seems like kind of a broken combo.
I don't know if it would be. I don't know if I'm not convinced that it would be good, but it's just like, oh, that'd be interesting. You know, wipe away some damage.
Yeah. Well, you wipe
That
it
you're
away,
putting
you
on
get rid of a
yourself.
psychic, and then you can just put it right back on. So-
Yeah, you're, two birds, one stone. You know, getting rid of. Anyways, Sean, there's another psychic Pokemon that's made a lot of noise in the Pokemon community that a lot of people are interested in. This is another card that can be part of the Miraidon decks and could be kind of a mainstay in a lot of decks. What is it?
Oh my gosh, this is Klefki.
Yes, it is.
Whew. Okay. This is, man, you want to read it, Jake? Please read it.
Klefki has the ability Mischievous Lock. As long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, basic Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponents, have no abilities except for Mischievous Lock. There's also an attack for one colorless, knockoff 10 damage. Before doing damage, discard all Pokemon tool cards attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. So
Jake,
kind of can do a little bit of both. I think the ability is what people are talking about.
I'm going to say right now, I think this is an amazing card in Lost Box.
Lost Box?
Yes, and here's my reason. All you have to do is end your turn with it in the active spot. It's only when it's in the active that basic Pokemon have no abilities. So when it's not in the active, all your compies can do all their stuff. And then you switch it and leave it in the active between turns. You turn off all of your opponent's abilities. So against other Lost Box decks, they're screwed. Against, I mean, they could have
Miraidon?
Yeah,
a basic
Miraidon.
Pokemon?
So you could have going, if you go, actually, it's perfect because if you go second even, but if you play like a couple of Klefkis and you get it in the active against that Miraidon, that could be really annoying for the Miraidon player.
Yeah, I mean, if the Miraidon can't play the game, sucks to suck, you know?
Yeah.
That's just kind of how it is at some point. I think this card will be included in a lot of different decks and a lot of different ideas, both in like stall type decks, Sander Wojcik, I know is salivating at this card probably. And just decks in general, because abilities run dominant, I feel like right now. And well, actually you don't stop Lugia, because Lugia is a V-Star. It's technically evolved.
Yeah, because
like it's not
Pokemon.
Lugia V-Star isn't
Correct.
Considered a basic Pokemon, but
That's
it stops a lot of things, as you were saying, in like Lost Box and Miraidon and things like that. So very curious to see where this goes. I wonder how expensive it'll be too. It is a rare in the Japanese sets, so I'd imagine it'd also be a rare in the Scarlet and Violet set that's coming out here in a couple weeks.
It might be one of those weird rare cards that, like, kind of like, you know how I think Manaphy at one point was like $4 or $5. It might still be. It might be.
I don't know.
Yeah, but it might be one of those weird
I bet it.
rare
I mean, I
cards.
bet it is, because Comfeys for a little bit right after release were pretty expensive, I feel like.
Yeah, it might be one of those weird rares that's like weirdly like more expensive than like the Vs and whatever else, the EXs.
I mean, it depends on how playable it is. And this other rare, Holucha, could be pretty playable as well. I know several people were excited about this card right here. Has the ability Flying Entry, 70 HP, fighting type Pokemon. Gets stopped by Klefki, by the way. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you may choose 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon and put 1 damage counter on each of them. So it's like a Zigzagoon, but times 2.
Double Zigzagoon.
Yeah.
Okay, that's, man. They really had to get rid of Scoop Up Net, huh?
Yeah.
Don't bother playing expanded format ever again, kids.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be completely broken.
I mean, yeah. Gosh. Well, I mean, Scoop Up. I mean, in expanded format, when you talk about the donk decks, because that's what I feel like you're probably referring to.
Yeah.
Like, they just want to knock out your active. And this is specifically benched Pokemon.
It is, but I mean, there's just so many. There seems like there's a couple things now that like I don't know. Maybe they're not good and expanded, but like they should never be in the same format as Scoop Up Net, and so.
And that's why Pokemon has not said anything about expanded in months, essentially. But this is another card I feel like a lot of people are going to include in several different decks because just like Zigzagoon, right? I mean, this is putting damage counters in places. You think about Lost Box, I think will probably play this, and Lost Box type decks that have the ability to put a bunch of damage counters everywhere. So look out for this one, Sean.
Yeah, I'll be interested. I don't know if Lost Box will want this. It might. I think this will be the type of card where it's going to take up a whole bench space and you can't get rid of it because you don't have Scoop Up Net anymore. So I feel like this will be particularly popular if everything is 1 damage off, right? If you can concoct a scenario where you're always and you can like, if I can get those damage early, then we're good.
But imagine if you can get 1 damage counter away from a Medicham loop.
That's really interesting. I don't know if Medicham rotate.
I have no idea, to be honest, off the top of my head.
You know, Jake and I don't know anything, so we're just not going to speculate anymore on that one.
We're just going to talk about cool card combos that could or could not be a thing here in the next couple months or whatever. But
the next
anyways,
card,
which one do you want to talk about next, Sean?
We'll talk about Koraidon, right? The partner to Miraidon.
The ugly stepchild.
Yeah, there's always one ugly stepchild. It's 230 basic. Got the ability Dino Cry. Once during your turn, you may attach up to 2 basic fighting energy cards from your discard pile to your basic fighting Pokemon in any way you like. If you use this ability, your turn ends.
Yeah, so what I want to know is why Miraidon EX doesn't have this same clause at the end of like, if you use this, your turn ends.
I guess it's because the most you could ever do is put 4 Pokemon onto your bench with its abilities, because you'd have to have 2 of them. You do the ability, and so it's like the most you'd ever get.
That's a full bench of support.
It is, but once your bench is full, it's like now your bench is full. Whereas this, it's like, you know, I don't know. I kind of agree with you. I feel like they should have gone the Zacian route with Miraidon.
Yeah.
And been like, you know, if you use this ability, your turn ends. Same thing with the Zacian in the Sword and Shield base set. Because this feels like, okay, the Koraidon is really powerful for 1 turn. It's basically, if it's turn 1 and you can get this ability, if you can get 2 fighting energy into your discard, basic fighting on turn 1.
Yeah,
so that means
it's also
second?
Yeah, because you're not going to use this like mid-game unless you sit behind. I mean, no, even if you sit behind a Klefki, you can't use this ability.
Exactly. This one is a whiff for me. Like, it's great for fighting decks if you want to accelerate early, but I wish it was attached to basic energy cards from your deck. That would have made it a much more playable card.
Here's the thing. Either it needed like from the deck or it needs to get rid of the ability turn ends.
Yeah.
Like to be, I guess, equal footing with Miraidon. So is Miraidon Miraidon hits, or I'm sorry, Koraidon, the fighting type one, hits weakness on Miraidon.
Yeah.
So does that play a factor at all?
It also hits 220, and Miraidon is also only 220. So it doesn't even matter, Jake.
It doesn't even need the weakness on it, the 2 times weakness.
Yeah. For me, like, yeah, big whiff. If they had it from the deck, or if they'd had it, you can only use 1 Dino Cry per turn. So you can't stack these. Like, a little better. I think that's still kind of iffy, because then if you can accelerate 2 fighting every turn, that starts to get a little weird, but
I mean, I don't know. I mean, Pokemon are taking knockouts on each other every turn, so.
You're right.
But Sean, you know what you can do every single turn if you want? You can hidey hole Skowovit.
Oh.
I think this ability is really, really cool. We've talked about Revolves before because it's one of the pre-release promos, but I want to talk about the Skwovet because 1, this card art is adorable and it's great, but 2, I really like this ability, not because it may be the best thing in the world, but because it's super unique and super cool, I feel like. So if you do not know, from this 60 HP basic Pokemon. It's got the ability Hidey Hole. Once during your turn, you may use this ability. Shuffle your hand and put it at the bottom of your deck, then draw a card.
Interesting.
I think this is really cool in something like Lugia, right? Maybe if Lugia ever partners up with something like an Oranguru, you got a bunch of energies in your hand, but you got to churn the gas. You got to get going, right? You got to go through your deck, or you got to get those abilities in the, or you got to get those energies in there. What if you like, I don't know, Oranguru your research at the top of the deck and then squove it, you know, all the rest of the cards in there, and then that way you can use the Archeops, or you could just skip the Oranguru in general. Maybe you're pretty much set up to save like one of your bench spots. You just squove it, the 7 energies you have in your hand, back at the bottom of your deck, so then you can Archeops them in.
That's a really good point. I think you're absolutely right. I think with Lugia, if you end up with a weird hand full of energy, this is perfect, because you're not gonna, there's no way you draw back into those energy. You're only going to draw 1, so it's not like you'll punish yourself by drawing too many cards.
The only thing that you punish yourself is if you dead draw, on that one. This is the whole downside, is you only get 1 card out of it, so you have to hope that that card is good. Maybe pair it with like Rotom Phones.
I think Rotom Phone is a really interesting card with this, or the Jirachi Amazing Rare.
Man, I love that. Right? I love that. No, the Radiant Jirachi just recently came out.
No, I'm talking about the Amazing Rare, or whatever the one.
Oh, you're talking about the one that allows you to look at the top 2.
Yeah, is that?
Yeah, that's the Amazing Rare Jirachi. Yeah. That's Vivid Voltage. So
that rotates, I think.
I don't remember the regulation mark on that, but it's close.
But
yeah, I mean, if not,
I mean, this could also pair well with one of your favorite cards, Jake, the Bibarel.
Oh yeah, Bibarel. Yeah,
because you put all of them on the bottom, you draw 1, and then Bibarel for 4 or whatever.
Yeah, you can Bibarel 4 more. Yeah, you're right. Industrious Incisors.
Yeah.
A great ability. And so, I don't know. This Squovet's really cool. I don't know if it's really good, but it just would make me really happy if it, was played frequently. But, Sean, that's pretty much all the utility Pokemon in here. What are some of the attacking Pokemon that you want to talk about?
I mean, there's a number of them. We can start with the Spidops EX. I don't know. It's a grass type, stage 1. So 260 HP. It has the ability Trap Territory. Your opponent's active Pokemon retreat cost is 1 more, colorless. So, it's playing into the making things harder to retreat. And then for a grass and a colorless, Wire Hang, 90 plus. That's just 30 more damage for each energy in your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost. So very much like, what was it, Leafeon VMAX?
It's just Leafeon VMAX. Yeah, it's just Leafeon VMAX, but the EX version.
Okay. I mean, there was a window of time in the format where that was a good deck.
There was. I mean, and who knows? Maybe putting it back down to 2 prizes and maybe the numbers line up. I mean, if you think about 120, right? That's 210 damage.
I mean, what's weird? These abilities stack, Jake.
They do actually. So if you get more than 1,
if you had all 4, they'd be 4 more. So if the average is 2 plus 4 is 6. You're doing 180 plus 90, 270 damage.
Yeah, so who knows? I mean, and plus we have stuff like Gardenia's Vigor in the format. So I know that card hasn't seen like really any play at all, but you'd be able to accelerate energies on there because you only need 2 on this guy. So who knows? Maybe this card has a little bit of playability. I would like to see a grass deck.
Yeah. I mean,
become
a grass
like
deck
decent.
Needs a home because, we had the Leafeon VMAX like a little over a year ago, and then we had, Rowlegs, if you will, the Tag Team GX. But other than those 2, there hasn't really been much in the way of good grass decks for a while. Jake,
we'll see how it goes.
Do you want to talk about this terrestrial Pokemon, your favorite Pokemon type, apparently?
Yeah, because we talked about this previously on the podcast, but if you do not know, the EX Pokemon that have the Terrastall kind of extra in it, I don't even know what to call it. The Terrastall type, they all have the like extra ability, I guess you could say. It's not technically an ability. It's like a Poke Power.
It's like an ancient trait.
Or ancient trait. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. It's like an ancient trait. where it says this Pokemon doesn't take any damage from attacks while on the bench. And they all say that. It's not just specific to this Arcanine. So I hate these cards. I just I wish they would have done something cooler. I wish they could have been other types. Maybe they will in the future. But who knows? Anyways, this card for 2 fire energies does 30 plus damage. This attack does 10 more damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So you can do, without any modifiers or anything, up to 270 more damage, right? And with Magma Basin, you can start kind of powering that up a little bit to help you get there. You know, you have other things as well that could help you out in terms of putting the damage counters. I think does Radiant Alakazam move one from your side to the opponent's field?
Maybe.
I think so. So that wouldn't necessarily work.
To me, this reads more like, I think adding the damage on your side is not, you're not going to be able to get a lot. I think it reads to me more like the revenge style, you know, attacks that we used to get on, like, you know, remember Reshiram and Charizard, how it had that 30 plus?
Yeah.
So
like the retaliates and stuff, like the Zamazenta that's in Lost Box right now from Crown Zenith.
Kind of, yeah. So it's like, hey, if you're gonna hit into this thing, which 280 is beefy, right? Like you keep this dude at 280, you maybe throw even like a big charm on this guy or something to beef him up, and it's gonna be hard to knock out. And if most Pokemon are doing 200 to 220 to 250 damage, somewhere in that range, you've just given this thing 250 damage plus 30, 280. So you hit into this once, and the likelihood that you get knocked out in response, very high. So
yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see how this will go, but I mean, I love the love for Arcanine, especially getting a Terrastall form, but no, I'm not seeing it.
I will say, Jake, this next one, I'm going to read this, although I think this is going to be your and Sanders' favorite card quite soon. Wug Trio. It is it's the cursed Doug Trio evolution.
I wouldn't say cursed. That's mean.
Sorry. It has an attack for 3 colorless called Sea Tunneling. Flip 3 coins. For each heads, discard the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck.
So effectively, you can discard up to 9 cards at one time.
Jake, there was a reason that they banned Belelba and Bryson Man and other cards, because there was one you could, back in the day, I think you could have discarded 13 cards from an opponent's deck on one turn at one point.
I can't remember. I played the deck that was pretty much the reason that Belelba and Bryson Glim. I'm trying to figure out what I wanted
it's the one
to
that had
type.
It used the EX or like the GX ability attack to discard an additional 5 on one of the turns, right?
Yeah, gosh, what was the I can't remember
Slugma?
the Pokemon
Or something like that.
I can't remember the Pokemon that did it, but yeah, that card was broken, and being able to discard a ton of cards at one time when you have other things like the Misfortune Trio Sisters, right? We've seen Sander play that to be able to look at the top 5 cards or whatever and discard all item cards.
I'm pretty sure Glimwood Tangle is going to stay in format. So
it is a deregulation mark.
Oh, Glimwood Tangle is D?
Yeah, I just looked it up. That's what I was trying to type.
Okay, well.
But there is isn't there going to be a time where you can play with it a little bit, DGen?
No, it will not in an official tournament. No.
Well, not in an official tournament, but with your friends to destroy their hopes and dreams,
you can
right?
Just play with it with your friends if you're like, hey, can I play this absolutely insane, never meant to be together combo?
Can I just do this absolutely degenerate thing in our friendly game together? Thanks.
I want to see somebody rock this deck, Sander or somebody, and it's like he needs to hit all heads to win the game right now, and he flips all heads, and the casters go crazy. That's what
What you got to do is you Misfortune Sisters, right? Get 5 item cards, discard them all. You got to put out your Glimwood Tangle, and you have to Zoroark, right? Zoroark into Wug Trio. That's how you do it, and you chain your Wug Trios, and somehow, some way, you just hit the 3 coins. Maybe like the first time you do it, you go 3 tails, but then you reflip with the Glimwood Tangle and you hit 3 heads.
Well, All right, we gotta keep this train rolling. I feel like we've been talking about certain things for too long. Jake, what's the next card on your list?
There's another card that I kind of want to talk about. Drifloon over here, scrolling a little bit down. Drifloon has an interesting attack for 2 psychic energies. Balloon Pop, or Balloon Bomb, I'm sorry. 30 times damage. This attack does 30 damage for each of your damage counter on this Pokemon. It is a basic Pokemon, so something like Cape of Toughness works for it. I'm actually going to look what the regulation mark is for Cape of Toughness, because I can't remember. It is a deregulation mark, so we're back in the category of playing degenerate things with your friends. So in terms of damage modifiers, I can't
180.
recall off the top of my head.
Yeah, there might be something in the format that can boost it a little bit, but let's say for
and
now,
something
180.
that may come as well, you know, in the future. But with something like the Gardevoir EX, right? You can combo together with this to be able to get the attacks off, to either be able to, you know, do the 190 yourself, right, on the Gardevoir EX, the attack that you mentioned earlier, or maybe go into this poor little Drifloon and just rock a bunch of damage and exchange one prizers.
Yeah, I mean, hey, like 180 for a single prize basic Pokemon that can just come out of nowhere. Like that's a good strategy to win games. Like, you know, Reggie's and Soul Lunarock and Soul Rock and Lunatone, like those are great examples of like if that can be your strategy and your opponent can't knock anything else out, you can win going 180 a turn.
I will say, especially with Gardevoir, I don't think we mentioned this earlier with Gardevoir EX and how it has to be a stage 2. We can use the discard a card, draw 2 Curlias.
Oh, right. That's to get the
on the way
energy
to
into
its
the discard.
evolution. Yeah, to get energy in the discard to just churn through your deck in general. So kind of interesting, I feel like.
Yeah. I will say there's one Pokemon I think we can skip. I'm gonna be honest. I think we can skip over Magnezone and Ampharos.
Yeah.
But Banette, I do want to talk about Banette because Banette is basically a spiritual successor to the
Gengar Mimikyu.
Yes. So it is a stage 1. So you can't do it on turn 1 going second, thank God. But you have a stage 1 for 1 psychic. You can do 30. Your opponent can't play item cards from their hand during their next turn. So it's got a bit of a Vikavolt ability in its first attack. But then you combine that with a psychic and colorless. Look at your opponent's hand. This attack does 60 for each trainer card in there. So you not only get knowledge about your opponent's hand, you know, if they're holding on to item cards, you know, this is a great card to take advantage of an opponent that has a slow start, or if you can get a little bit of disruption in the early game. I'm thinking like Crushing Hammers, you know, that Klefki that's super annoying. Just a couple of cards that make it really slow for your opponent. Bring this Banette up and basically say, hey, since you didn't go ham turn 1 or 2, we're good now.
Who knows? I mean, I think I know Justin was playing a little bit. He's been making some like post rotation YouTube videos. I know this is one of the decks that he's kind of been thinking about as well. And you can do stuff like Klefki in the beginning to be able to slow your opponent down, to be able to get things going and things like that. Or you can, I don't know, do the Gardevoir. I don't think that's good. I think Klefki is your better option.
Yeah, I think the Klefki is useful in here. I don't know. I'm sure we'll see a little bit of this tested out too. It might rely too much on your opponent being able to play around it, because you don't have the Omastar in format anymore, which was just really key for Gengar Mimikyu. But still, any other attacking Pokemon, Jake?
I don't think so on my side. So we'll move into the supporters, trainers, things like that. Judge, Professor's Research are both getting reprints, updated regulation marks as well. So they'll be around for a little bit longer with the regulation mark G. One card that I do want to talk about that I think is kind of cool is Miriam. Not because, you know, the full art and the other full art supporter cards are going to be extremely expensive and very, very tough to get if you don't pull. But the effect of this supporter card: shuffle up to 5 Pokemon cards from your discard pile into your deck, then draw 3 cards.
Interesting. I like that. That's like in specific decks that, you know, are like you need all 4 of a certain type, like the Durant deck or whatever. This is really useful for that. I will say though, 5, it says up to 5, and that's perfect because you could choose. Can you choose 0?
Yeah, you can choose 0.
Yeah. Because
actually, I don't know.
I think
it says up to.
So I think you could choose 0 just to draw 3 if you were like, I need to draw a specific thing.
No, I think maybe you need to at least have 1, because I think about like Ordinary Rod when I was playing TCGO a lot. You know, Ordinary Rod, I think you had to have the energy or the Pokemon in the discard pile, and I think like when you selected the option, I think you had to take at least 1. I don't know.
I'll be interested to see how this gets ruled, because you know somebody's gonna just play this and try to shuffle 0.
But I mean, think about it, like just drawing card, like, so you think of like Brock's Grid. Brock's Grid had like a combination of like 5 or 6 Pokemon and energy, but it didn't have this like draw 3 effect. And we still saw Brock's Grid in decks in the Sun and Moon era, mostly I think control, but still. Miriam is probably going to be a pretty decent control card, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I think it depends on if control needs Pokemon in the deck. That's the question, because, you know, late game, 5 Pokemon in your deck just doesn't feel particularly useful. So, but look, if you only need 1 Pokemon and you need to draw 3, like if that Pokemon can't be gotten with Rescue Stretcher, right? Then like, okay, cool. Now we're in business. It's a different kind of effect, because we're losing Ordinary Rod, I'm pretty sure. So
I will say the next supporter talking about, we were trying to figure out a supporter like this earlier from the past, but the Pokemon company's been listening in, and they threw this one in there. Penny: return one of your basic Pokemon in play and all cards attached to it to your hand. So there's kind of the one that we were looking for, the cool combo with Armorage, I believe its name was. Just moving the energy and then picking up all the damage on top of it. This says basic Pokemon only though, so
I think
you got to kind of be careful.
Is the Arcanine? No, it's not a basic.
No,
EX.
it's a stage 1.
Yeah, I don't. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what card this goes well with. But the fact that it does say basic, which I like. They're giving it that, you know, limitation. But
a little bit, it's a little bit of limitation. It's not just anything like AZ. AZ was such a good card and playable card.
But I will say, cards like this, man, like if you ever get a stall deck that uses a basic, like if they ever print a really good Wailord EX, look out, man. Penny's gonna be hot. I wanted to mention this one card only because Arven. It allows you to search your deck for an item card and a Pokemon tool and put them into your hand. I wanted to point that out because it's a reminder that Pokemon tools will be their own subcategory of cards now. You won't be able to go get them out with item search anymore. So that that Arven might be one of the few ways that you can go explicitly get a tool card out of your deck now.
I will say as well, so again, you know, just in case you did not know, as Sean said, tool cards are getting their own kind of subset. So in trainer cards in general, you have supporter cards, stadium cards, item cards, and now tool cards as part of that trainer umbrella. Tool cards got elevated, I guess you could say, in terms of importance to be around. Team Star Grunt, that's a card that Sander will probably play. I don't know. All these cards are standard cards. You know, anything is possible with science and imagination. But this Team Star Grunt, put an energy attached from your opponent's active Pokemon on the top of their deck. So we've kind of seen effects like this before with Team Grunts or whatever in the past. You know, there's Team Flare, Team Skull. That was usually, I believe, discarding the energy attached to your opponent's Pokemon, and then there was one that was back into their hand.
Team Yell Grunt.
Team Yell Grunt, and now they're going to the top of the deck.
I
in this.
prefer top of the deck than hand because
I think I do too.
it's much, from a control player's perspective, it's much easier to play a strategy where you can make them then discard it from like a mill effect. But back to hand. Hand is a weird. There have been very few cards, I think, that really allow you to selectively discard cards from your opponent's hand. So it seems more useful in this format for that kind of strategy.
It'll be interesting to see how it goes and plays about. But I mean, we don't need to talk about Youngster. I don't think it's just Shauna.
Is Shauna in format? Shuffle draw.
Yeah,
5?
Shauna got reprinted, but it's not very good. So that's why you don't remember.
I guess because I'm like, you could either play Youngster, shuffle draw 5, or you could also play Judge. Both players shuffle draw 4, and I'm like, to be honest, the ability to upset your opponent is just better. It's like until they reprint Cynthia of shuffle draw 6, don't bother.
And that's how that usually goes. But now moving on into the item cards, there are some updated regulation marks, including Crushing Hammer, a card that you mentioned earlier, Sean. That's staying in here. We got Energy Retrieval in Mark G. Put up to 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile into your hand. Energy Switch, moving to basic energy from one of your Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon. Energy Search, just grabbing a basic energy, putting it in your hand. Nest Ball, searching for a basic Pokemon and put it on your bench, then shuffle your deck. Get 4 of these. It's very good. You're probably going to play it in most all of your decks.
Because you're losing Quick Ball.
Nest Ball. Definitely get that. This was a super playable card, and it will still be. Gosh, there's a lot of updated regulation marks. I did not realize while going through this Tyrant how many extra regulation marks there were. Pal Pad, shuffling up to 2 supporter cards from your discard pile into your deck. Pokegear 3.0. I'm excited to keep this card. I love Pokegear, Sean.
Yeah.
Look at the top 7 cards of your deck, grab a supporter card you find in there and put it in your hand. Shuffle the other cards. Pokemon Catcher, flipping a coin. If head, switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon. Rare Candy, going from a stage 1 to a stage 2, or I'm sorry, going from a basic Pokemon to a stage 2. You can skip the stage 1 Pokemon. It even says in there specifically skipping the stage 1, which I think is kind of cool. I don't know if Rare Candy cards in the past have actually specified that.
Interesting.
There's a couple other ones like switch one of your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. Love that card. It's almost, has it ever not been in format?
There might be a window
since like the old like Neo days or something like that. I think.
Yeah, I mean maybe, but I doubt it. It's such a basic card.
It's quite literally a staple in Pokemon trading card game. And then Ultra Ball, you can use this card, discard 2 other cards from your hand, search your deck from a Pokemon, reveal it, put it in your hand. And there was a lot of reprinted ones, Sean, but there's one item card that is more than the others. That is actually one of the enablers, a 4 of in the Miraidon, Regieleki decks, things like that. What is that? Tell me about it.
That's Electricity Generator. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Choose 2 basic lightning energy. Attach them to your benched lightning Pokemon in any way you like. Then shuffle the remaining cards. So it's kind of like a Max Elixir. But
yes, Max Elixir was the old card. Well, I wouldn't say worse.
Well, I feel like, I don't know. I never played with Max Elixir, but like, it's look at the top 5, but it's only lightning energy and it's only the bench lightning
but
Pokemon.
It's like, you weren't going to play a Max Elixir if you had all special energies, right?
Sure, but it doesn't get any other kind of energy.
Yeah, but think about how with lightning decks, this card is gas.
Oh, yeah, no, with lightning decks, like, it's a weird thing because a lot of decks play much less energy than you might expect. So, like, the average deck today runs between like 11 and 14 energy. 14 is pretty high, actually. So, actually, like, you might look at the top 5 and not find any basic energy in there.
Yeah, but it's the same thing as like Pokegear, looking at the top 7 and not finding anything in there.
I mean, I suppose. I mean, so yeah, if you really want to go turbo with the Miraidon deck, Electricity Generator is important. I wonder if this will be a card that actually gets played in a ton of it, or if they'll opt for different cards in order to get the energy into the discard and just use Flaffy instead. I
Mhm.
think that might be a choice people have to make with their deck size, but who knows?
I do think that it's either one or the other as well in terms of like a 4 of and things like that. But I think that card is pretty good, and it's gonna be one of the reasons that Miraidon is the bee's knees, right, of the set.
I mean, there is a benefit. If you can hit it, if you just, luck your way into it and you get all 3 energy on that Miraidon turn 1 going second, you could do 220 damage, which, like, it's pretty devastating.
Pretty much knocks out a lot of V Pokemon, especially, and it could knock out even more if you have a reprinted tool card like Vitality Band. The attacks of the Pokemon this card is attached to do 10 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So you can do even more damage with Miraidon post rotation, and you can move the energies as well because EXP share is getting a reprint as well. If you don't know what EXP share is, when your active Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, you may move one basic energy card that was attached to the Pokemon this card is attached to. So, I mean, just so everyone understands, because there was a lot of words in that. If you have a Miraidon in the active and a Miraidon on the bench, if that Miraidon in the active has 3 energies, the Miraidon on the bench has the EXP share, and your Miraidon in the active gets knocked out, the EXP share says you can move one of those energies onto the one on the bench that has the EXP share. Just to give a hypothetical, because I know I said those words real fast. But Sean, what are some of the new ones in here?
Well, there's 2 new tools that are of interest. There's Defiant Band. If you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent, the Pokemon this card is attached to does 30 more damage to your opponent's active. I mean, are we losing choice band or no?
Choice.
Choice
I
belt?
actually don't know if we are losing choice band, but we have a bunch of cards in the format right now that are like the Klefki, right? I also think it's called choice belt, by the way.
Choice
So
belt.
it's an
Okay.
F regulation mark, so that is staying in the format for a little bit longer.
And does that only do damage to it? Does it do
Pokemon V.
Pokemon
Active
V. So,
Pokemon V.
actually, this is important, right? So, like, if you want to knock out the new EXs and you need that damage modifier, Defiant Band or Vitality Band are really the best ways to do that. So this could see play the more and more EXs become the mainstay.
All I'm saying, Greed and VMAX, right? Greed and VMAX taking those extra prizes. You put a Defiant Ban on it, be able to take even more, because some of these other like little Pokemon have more damage, and so you can be able to reach a little bit higher, with this extra damage if you go down
true.
earlier.
That's true.
It'd be awesome.
Or the Stoutland V, one of those. Yeah, nasty. Jake, what is that last tool card?
Rock Chestplate. The fighting type Pokemon this card is attached to takes 30 less damage from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon after applying weakness and resistance. So it's the way to save Miraidon. Or I'm sorry, Koraidon, apparently.
There's no way. There's no way to save Koraidon. It's trash.
No way, but you can buy yourself a little bit more time with Koraidon.
Yeah, I guess. You could just hang on, buddy. We'll get you to a doctor.
It's like the call an ambulance, but not for me.
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of like that with Miraidon, like sees the rock chest plate, like, oh no, I can't knock you out, but then it's like, bam, more damage.
There's 2 stadiums that are pretty. I can go over them real quick. Like there's Beach Court. You can lower the retreat cost of each basic Pokemon by 1 colorless, which, there are probably that will be very relevant in some decks. And a little annoying for the one that likes the Leafeon VMAX reprint. But otherwise I don't know like if that's particularly useful. And then Mesa Goza. Once during each player's turn, that player may flip a coin. If heads, that player searches their deck for a Pokemon, reveals it, puts it into their hand. I could see this being a really good stadium for Lugia
Okay.
because it's a Pokemon. So, instead of playing one of the other stadiums, because you need your abilities to be turned on, so you want to play stadiums, you play this. If you flip heads, you can go get your Lugia V-Star. You can go get your Archeops, right? And then you can go discard them with that. So I do think there's maybe some merit to, if you have a really complicated setup deck, playing something like this.
Mm-hmm.
But just my 2 cents on that.
Just your 2 cents. I mean, we did call a bunch of things so far in our time in the Pokemon trading card game and stuff. And you may be looking at this, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening to us, and you may say, Jake, Sean, where are the special energies? Are there any special energies to know? You didn't mention any special energies. And while Sean was talking, I looked at the set list posted on Justin's website, and I did not see actually a single special energy card that was in there. So I don't know if maybe there's no special energy in this set upcoming, at least not one to note, if my quick skim didn't work out.
Yeah, there may not be. I'm also doing a quick skim right now.
There's gold like basic energy cards.
That's cool, but not what we're looking for.
Not exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's just how it's got to be,
Yeah, I know we get a, in the follow-up set, Triple Beat, which will then be a part of our, I guess, next set. There will be a special rainbow energy that comes out, but we'll get to that later. So, for all of you who love your rainbow energy now that Aurora...
You Lugia players.
Rotating, yeah. You might have to wait a couple of months extra.
And you know what? We'll tell you all about it when it's coming to you. Just like everything else here on the Metapod Podcast, Pokemon Podcast revolves around the evolving meta. Shine, you got anything else you want to say?
Bye.
See ya.